So I am blessed to get to work with a lot of amazing small business owners. And in my straw poll that I've been keeping, most people believe their biggest challenges are things like competition, lack of capital, the Facebook algorithm, supply chain issues, and all sorts of external challenges. But as I get to work with them, it very quickly becomes apparent that fear is the number one challenge people are really facing. The resources needed to overcome those external challenges are available to them. They just don't do enough to overcome those external issues because of fear. That fear of failure, the fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of getting out of your comfort zone. So in the next 20, 25 minutes or so, I will help you define what fear really is, and I'm going to give you some techniques to conquer those fears. Plus, I want to share with you what I call the art of success, so you can not only live to tell about it, but also thrive in the face of fear. Now, with our limited time together today, I figured it best just to sum it all up in one simple step. So, are you guys ready? Here we go. Yes, you ready? Okay. How to overcome your fear of heights right here. Start small. All right, yes. There is more to it than just that, but I couldn't resist showing you this cute little kitten climbing on a little plant, and so there's option one. But in all seriousness, let's go ahead and get into it. So before we conquer anything, we have to clearly define it. We have to understand what it is at its root and also give it some perspective. How is fear holding us back? No one started a business to work 168 hours, all of the hours of every day. Business owners are actually drawn to what a business represents. It's the freedom to make our own decisions, being able to support ourselves and our families on our terms, and getting to call the shots and creating what we want. Being a business owner comes with lots of unknowns, failures, new highs, and at times extreme lows. We have the freedom to make our own decisions, but we also have the responsibility to make all of those decisions. Now, owning a business can be terrifying. When we look at failure as opportunity, though, we learn that reaching beyond our fears is what we need to do. So what is fear? Well, fear is simply an acronym. It stands for a fantasized experience appearing real. Right? The mind cannot tell the difference between a real event and a vividly imagined event. That's great news. We can create whatever outcome, feeling, result, anything that we want, but we have to use intentionality and practice. This same fear, or this fantasized experience appearing real, is also how we scare the heck out of ourselves, right? What things are you afraid of that you know you need to do for your business? Now, what else does fear show up as, right? Is it the words that come out for me are things like anxiety, stress, and a big one is worrying. What is going to happen if I make this decision, right? But worrying is fear. And if fear is worrying, Brian Tracy said this: worrying is just negative goal setting. So we're actually creating what we fear when we're fearing the worst case scenario. Now, let's do a quick exercise to prove our acronym here. I want you guys to make sure that you're seated comfortably here first. So just, get seated if you can. And I'd like to ask you to close your eyes and play full out with this, right? Just experience this as best you can. Try to avoid distractions here for the next couple minutes, right? And I really want you to visualize what I'm about to share with you and just get deep into this. So in your mind, I want you to transform yourself. In your mind, I want you to transport yourself to the bottom of the tallest building you can imagine. And I want you to really visualize that building. Once you visualize that building, I want you to go into the building and get on this super fast elevator that goes all the way to the top. All right. At the top, I want you to exit that elevator and I want you to go to the balcony that looks out. And once there, I want you to start just vividly looking at all of the things around you. What does the sky look like? What is the floor made out of? Is it sunny outside? Is it overcast? Is it a little bit of both? Are there any sounds happening? Are there birds singing? Are there murmurs in the background? Get really clear on what all that looks like as you're standing there on the balcony at the very top of the tallest building that there is. And now that you've visualized all that, I'd like you to walk to the edge of that balcony as close as you feel comfortable, right? So get out there just as far as you can, get right to that comfort zone. Once you're there, I want you to take one more step outside of your comfort zone, right? And this step is going to be one more step without stepping off the edge. So if you're actually pretty close to the edge, maybe it's just a slight step forward. If you're a ways from the edge, I want you to take a big, giant step, right? So just take that step, again, without going off the edge. And then as you're there, I'd like you to look down. I'd like you to look down over the side of the building. Your feet are firmly planted on the ground. You're not going anywhere. You're just fine, but you're looking down over the side of that building. And as you look down, you realize there's really not much of a guardrail, right? And you're going to continue to look down. And I just want you to look down, see what's happening. Maybe there's traffic below, whatever's happening for you. And I want you to just experience that. Let that set in for just 1 second there. Okay. Now, as you've just got done experiencing that, I'd like you to turn around and walk or crawl or drag yourself army style, whatever you've got to do to get away from the edge and get yourself back to the elevator. And you're going to go into that elevator. Now you're going to get back in the elevator. It's a super fast, super smooth elevator. So it's going to zip you right back down to the bottom of the building. You're going to walk out of the building and you're going to transport yourself back to where you are sitting right now. Now, open your eyes. Okay, that was really quick. Went through that pretty quickly. But what were you feeling as you looked down off the top of that tall building? So, welcoming you back here to reality, beyond that feeling of loathing that you guys have for me right now for putting you through that, your body probably had these physiological responses to that vividly imagined event. But the reality is you're seated in front of a screen watching a Zoom presentation. You're not scaling the side of a tall building, right? So according to study after study, the only fear that scientists have been able to prove we are born with are the fear of falling, which is why that skyscraper exercise is so valuable, and the fear of loud noises. Beyond those two fears, we don't have fears of things like snakes or fear of public speaking, one of the most popular fears out there, fear of rejection, fear of confrontation. I have a massive fear of needles, right? We learned those fears over time. We learn those fears from some event that happened to us, and then we continue to imagine that outcome continuing to take place. But because we learn those fears, we can also unlearn those fears over time as well. Fear is not something to reject or even look down upon, but instead use it for what it is. It's a warning system. This was a great survival tool when we were fighting for our lives, but it's not a great tool for small businesses. We have to face fear, we have to take risks, we have to learn from experiences and grow to overcome those fears. Now, you only gain self-confidence by surviving a risk. Now, ultimately, a fear is just a belief we have about a potential future outcome. So it's up to us to create different beliefs about the future outcomes. We have to create a different belief and take action. So now that we understand what fear really is, we have a new perspective. Now, how can we slay that beast? How do we conquer fear? It's time to start conquering fear. So once you've recognized fear, right, those physiological responses that you were just experiencing on that building, when it shows up, there are 3 steps that I take to overcome those fears. And the very first one here is you have to use these exact words and state that fear, whatever it is that you're afraid of in that moment. And instead of saying, I'm afraid of, or the scary thing, or I'm worried about, change it and reframe it into, I scare myself by imagining, right? And then once we've reframed it and said, I scare myself by imagining, then I want to add, but if I agree with the fact that I'm scaring myself by imagining, can I instead realize? And then insert a better possible outcome, right? I scare myself by imagining that I might fall off the building. But if I agree with the fact that I'm scaring myself by imagining, can I instead realize That was an incredible view, being able to see the entire city and all of the things around me, right? Now, at first, when we start doing this, as you start implementing these tactics here, it's going to take some mental power. But once you make this a habit, right, you'll notice a better possible outcome. And that better possible outcome is going to start showing up in the face of fear all the time. Once we've done that, then we need to come back to the present. We need to find anything that is real right now. So when you were standing on that ledge looking down and your heart started to race, maybe you felt a little dizzy. I know for me, I start to sweat, my mouth gets a little dry. And when those physiological triggers start to occur, you have to stop yourself. You have to intentionally look around. What are you wearing? I'm wearing a blue shirt. What are you physically doing? Where are you physically at? Start taking stock of reality and just get into the present. Start with the most minute details, like the color of your shirt. What do you see directly in front of you? What are the current smells that you're experiencing? What's the temperature around you? Are there any noises happening? What are those noises from? And just keep finding the present until those physiological triggers go away. Once we've removed those physiological triggers, then the last part of this particular process is to find the alternatives to your negative goals that you were setting while you were in fear. What's the best possible outcome of the action that you were afraid of? Since fear is just a belief about a future outcome, instead, vividly imagine a major success. Vividly imagine something going your way. Vividly imagine someone heaping tons of praise on you for taking that action you were afraid of taking. Then we have to feel the fear and do it anyways. And not only is this a powerful statement, but this is also a really great book by Susan Jeffers, PhD. This is also a really great book by Dr. Susan Jeffers, PhD. That this final step in conquering fear is to take action. Think about it this way. If you've ever jumped off a diving board into a pool, you most likely, due to your natural fear of falling, you were pretty scared the first time. Now, did anyone stop, turn around, go insist to their mom and dad or whatever adult was with them at the time that we have to go to therapy right now, and you're going to go to therapy 5 to 7 days a week, and you're really going to focus on nothing else but getting off of that diving board, and you're going to do that until you can just automatically go jump off the highest diving board there is? My guess is no. My guess is you either held up the line for a little bit until the kids behind you kind of guilted you into just fleeing off the end of the diving board. You weren't jumping. You were just trying to get it over with, right? You were scared as heck, but guess what? You did it and you survived. And then you probably tried it again. And maybe this time you actually opened your eyes when you did it. And then you tried it again. And sooner or later, you were racing to get in line, and your parents actually had to drag you away from that diving board out of that pool, saying, come on, let's go, right? Now, same thing happened when we were learning to walk. You probably don't remember this, but this is how it went. You fell a few times, it hurt, you cried, but you kept on trying, right? You asked for help, you used the furniture, you held onto a hand, but sooner or later, you were driving your parents crazy walking around, and before anybody could blink an eye, you were off and running, right? Your parents were yelling at you to sit down and shut up, right? You experienced the fear, and you did it anyways. So finally, as we get into action here, this final piece is going to supercharge the action. And that supercharged action is going to go along with the feeling of fear and doing it anyways. Now, this quote here from Senator John McCain, fear is the opportunity for courage, not proof of cowardice. Because we are afraid of something doesn't mean that we're a coward. In fact, having fear shows that you're courageous because of the action you take in the face of fear. Time to utilize that fear to thrive. All of the actions you take on the other side of fear need to be moving us forward towards our goals, towards the things that we want out of our lives. Now, as we discussed, fear is our built-in warning system that something is outside of our comfort zone and danger might be lurking. The trouble is, our comfort zone needs to be expanded. When we utilize that fear correctly, it doesn't stop us from action, but instead gets us to pause briefly. Fear is good. Fear is not a roadblock, but simply a yield sign that we need to pause briefly. When you pause, you make better decisions, you take wiser actions, and you build momentum. So let me introduce you to this concept that I have here called the art of success. The art of success is a flywheel that I use to help me understand how to keep moving forward using all of the fears, the actions that I take out of those fears to grow and get better. So the first part of the art of success is the planning phase. We need to take the pause that fear gave us and we need to develop a little bit of a plan. Now, when I say plan, I mean just think briefly about what you'll do. And just take that first small step forward. You don't want to spend too much time here. We don't want to overthink it. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to use the pause that fear gives us to determine the best action that we can in that moment in time. Then we need to take the action, right? We need to do that thing, that first thing that we thought of, and you need to make sure that that thing you believe is something will get you closer to your goal. I want you to take any action, the most basic action you can force yourself to take, but you have to take an action. You have to take a step forward, right? After you've done that, then we need to experience the results. And yes, we want to take as many actions as we can, but if we don't let the most recent action sink in, you're actually not going to get any value out of that action. So you want to take in the experience, both good and bad, and then accept the results of that experience without any judgment, right? Now we can then analyze. Now we can think about it. Now we can learn from it. And this step here is only valuable if we took that previous step in experiencing results. We need to take in the results as feedback. We need to look for better actions to take in the future, and those things are going to show up as clues, right? Learn from anything that didn't go your way and amplify the things that worked. And then to close out this flywheel, we need to find the next action. We don't want to let any results that we've had along the way here dictate our momentum. We need to start building momentum no matter what. So what we need to do is we need to really start with high intentions of our desired result. Belief in ourselves, right? We're going to get this done. This is going to work. But then we have to leave this experience, that action, with very low attachments to the outcome. It was a failure. Okay, I learned something. I grew. I moved on. That's not going to affect my momentum. Now, just think what your business could be like if you replaced your fear of failure with the motivation of not failing enough times or fast enough to reach your goals, right? Flip that switch. Keep pushing this flywheel around and build momentum. That is going to lead you to success. Now, lastly here, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever squared off against a 3-year-old who really, really, really wanted something? Maybe it was ice cream. And they say, can I have the ice cream? Can I get some ice cream? Please, can I have ice cream? Oh my gosh, it's so hot. I really could use some ice cream. If I get some ice cream, I promise I'll be good. I really need that ice cream. Please? Mom? Dad, Mom said that you'd get me the ice cream, right? The ice cream. What about the ice cream? Can I have some? Please, can I have some ice cream? Mom, Dad, ice cream. Can I have some ice cream? And then finally I go, fine, here is your ice cream, right? We've actually learned somewhere along the road not to ask for the things that we needed and wanted. But we need to flip that script. We need to get back to that mentality. So using this little tool right here, SW, stands for some will, some won't, so what, someone's waiting, next. In your heads, or you guys can scream it out loud there on your side. Let's say it together. Some will, some won't, so what, someone's waiting, next.